What you're going to be watching is going to be a skill-based evolution in a practice of skirts to then increase skills to then be able to prove to myself that I am totally correct in stating if I have this, I can create any skirt. So the first thing that we're going to do is sew a pencil skirt, a really simple pencil skirt that just fits and looks good. That's what we're going to do. This is the front, this is the back. For the front, I have a 1/2 inch dart plus a 7 1/4 waist. For my high hip, 9 inches with a gentle slope to the high hip. The dart ends about a little more than a 1/2 inch above the high hip. 9 1/2 inches for the low hip, gentle slope down, and then drop straight down. Ignore I was silly and confused about life. This is the back. These are all of the random measurements that I feel like I'm going to want again in the future. Please note that the measurements for your high hip, for your waist, for your low hip are not oh, your waist is 27 inches. You should divide that in half and put half of this in the front and half of this in the back. The truth is that your back end is actually smaller than your front end, and that has been adjusted for. This is going to be 6 6/8 minus a 1/2 inch dart up here versus the 7 1/4 plus a 1/2 inch dart over here. So this would be 7 3/4, and this is going to be 6 6/8. 9 inches for the high hip, 8 5/8 over here, 9 1/2 for the low hip, 9 3/4 over here. The seam allowance plans for this are going to be standardized for me from here on out. I want a full inch on the side. I want 2 inches at the bottom to fold up and hem. And for this up here, I have seen a lot of patterns that dip down. You can see that that was originally the plan. For whatever reason, my body does not do this. I do not have a dip, and when I put on the muslin for this practice skirt, there is no up or down, it just goes around. So we're just gonna leave it because this is about me fitting the clothing to my body versus someone else's. My original measurements were that my waist is 27, my high hip is 35 1/2, and my low hip is 38. I also finally put in length. Just below the knee is about 20 inches. A-line, I'm gonna want that at about 27. Ankle, 35-ish, and my kick pleat, if I have one, I wouldn't put it just below the knee. It's not necessary, not with the way my construction is. It just isn't. It's not a hobble skirt at that point. But if it's longer than that, the kick pleat starts here at 17 1/2 inches down. This is a lovely brown wool. I'm very excited to wear this. I have already sewn in the pleats. You can see where the seam allowance is, 1 inch on this side, 1 inch over here. We can see that there is a slope in on this. This is the back seam that you're looking at, and my zipper is going to go in right here, no lower than that. This is the kick pleat. Notice that the front, this side and this side are a perfect mirror image. For the purpose of seeing the back end of this, I am going to turn this. You can see a full inch seam allowance through here. This is where the zipper is going to go. Then there'll likely be a clip right here so that this can fold down. Seam, 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 and then seam. This gets folded down, and there will be a full seam that connects everything all the way through. This will have already been sewn down, connecting the two ends, but it's going to be open and just ironed down, and then that's how you have a kick pleat. This is the front. I'll put in a dart here, full inch seam allowance, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance at the top. Perfect mirror image, one more dart here. Sew up the sides and put in a waistband. I cut out a full 3 inches, folded it in half, ironed this down like nobody's business, and then tucked and ironed again. So this is a very well structured, I won't be adding anything to strengthen this. This is already bulky as is. Please note, and the iron was my BFF. This will end up being either a button or a buttonhole here, but it will go right over the top. And this will sink into right here. All the way down. Let's make a skirt. right there. I have a blister on my nose. I had a shiny, irregularly shaped, slightly flaking, started bleeding at one point, was never a pimple, didn't scratch myself there, and the whole thing was just weird. So I went to see my dermatologist and she went, no, that's got to go. Those are totally precancerous cells. Good catch. You will never feel more smug in your entire life, like total victory, when a doctor says to you, those are precancerous cells, let me just lob that off or burn that off or yeet an entire organ. That happened last year. But you're not in the middle of cancer. Do your skin checks, people. All right, as a review, because I have no idea where I'm actually at on any of this. This is flat knee. This is technically a sloper with just a minimal amount of ease, and to take this exact concept, I can make this. There are no pockets. I hate pockets. I lose things in pockets and then I wash them in the machine. I have lost lipsticks that way. I've lost clothing that way. It's not worth it to me. I don't need pockets. I didn't grow up with them. I don't know how to use them. Plus, I always feel like they make, I don't know, tighter fitting clothing look bulky, and I'm not making loose clothing. So in this case, there are no pockets. I'll have a purse. That's fine. The things that I'm looking for, the straight line up and down. I am looking at my hem being straight across. I am looking at my kick pleat. I am looking at the ability to take large steps in my pencil skirt. I have the ability to sit down. I also have the ability to bend over. As you can see, I can sit down. Oh, who's your good puppy? Oh, who's your good puppy? These are not the exact same skirt. This one's darker by just a hair than this one. This one was the last week's. Or next week's, depending on how all of this ends up filming. All right, same pattern. Same thing as last time. Or next time. Sloper with very mild ease. Fitted waist at the natural waist. High hip, low hip, straight down. Kick pleat so that I can walk or even run if it were necessary, although I'm not doing that. Zipper in the back. This is not an invisible zipper. I love this skirt. I love these skirts. And I love the wool, and I am warm. This is luxury. This is idiotic levels of luxury, and I'm very pleased. This skirt completes my skill drill proof of concept that this works. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do with this is to experiment with the following. This is my natural waist. I want to drop my natural waist and then do a seam through here and add in pleating at the bottom and an attempt at a 1920s lowered waist down to the hips and straight down. Technically speaking, if I took a sweater, didn't tuck it in, and wore it down to the lowish high hip area, and did the hair right and the hat and the shoes right, I could pass this skirt off as 1920s simply because no one would know where the under part of this skirt was actually fitting. So keep that in mind. I could obviously do 1960s. I can obviously do 1950s in this. This is a timeless skirt that I've got going on. Part of the reason why I wanted to start there. The next thing that I want to do is then go from the the low hip, and do an A-line skirt. I want to do a 4-panel and I want to do a 6-panel. In each one of these patterns that I'm going to create, I'm going to actually back them on poster board, because if I have permanent patterns of my skirts, that seems smart. That seems very smart. That seems very, very smart and doable. Okay, so skirt, proof of concept. I totally got this. And again, I figured out zippers. Because I don't know if you've I have a hip dip here. I mean, like a genuine one. And it isn't the line that most people want to accentuate on the human body. In fact, I don't really remember a time period where the hip dip was like a thing, where it was like, ooh la la. That just seems to be skipped over in general. So with that understanding, putting a zipper right here, I don't have any hip to support that zipper, and invariably the zipper does this. Simply because there's no body to push the zipper and hold this line out. So therefore, we're gonna go ahead and skip that. We're gonna put it here. And we have learned how to sew for my body. Whatever you do, make it good for you, your body. Remember, the clothing fits you. You don't change for the clothing. Okay, time for a new project.